Good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. A big win for establishment Democrats in battleground Wisconsin. Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong defeated in the primary race for governor. What it means for the surging progressive movement. Breaking this morning, a new look at the state of the economy. Prices rose slightly in July. What the numbers mean at the grocery store and the ballot box. New NBC News reporting on the threat from Iran that forced the Secret Service to hide President Trump in a catering truck. The new comments from the president about that elaborate ruse overnight. And we're on the ground in Colombia after the devastating earthquake that killed hundreds. A 6-month-old baby pulled from the rubble alive. The desperate search right now for more survivors. And good to be with you this busy Wednesday, August 12th. We got a lot of news to get to this morning. Let's begin this hour with breaking news and dramatic primary election results. First to Wisconsin. NBC News projecting a stunning upset win for Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley in the Democratic primary for governor. He defeated Democratic Socialist State Representative Francesca Hong, who entered Election Day as the apparent frontrunner, according to some polls. Crowley now set to face Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany in November. And in South Carolina, the Republican fight for Senate is not over yet. Appointed Senator Darlene Graham, who is in the seat following her brother Lindsey Graham's death, she is headed to a runoff with Congressman Ralph Norman. Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin. Julie, we've got David Crowley speaking right now. So before we get to you, let's listen real quickly to what he's saying this morning after his victory.
I want to thank my wife, Erica, my better three quarters, and the A squad. None of this would be possible without your love, your patience, your sacrifices, and your faith. Public service asks a great deal of the people closest to us, and I will never take that for granted. Today is also a time to recognize everyone who participated in this primary. Democracy is stronger when people step forward to serve their families, their communities, and engage in spirited debate about how best to do that. To Kelda and Joe and every candidate who shared their vision for Wisconsin, thank you. They challenged all of us to think bigger about what our state can become. And I especially want to thank Representative Francesca Hong. Her campaign reminded people across Wisconsin that there are no long shots when it comes to believing in a better future and fighting to expand opportunities to every family. That kind of passion, it strengthens our democracy. And I look forward to earning their support and everyone who participated in this campaign as we move forward together. Over the past few months,
all right, Julie Sirkin, let's bring you here. David Crowley, he dropped out of the race about a month ago. Then he jumped back in and defeated the Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong. Walk us through how he pulled it off and what this result, I guess, tells us about where the Democratic Party stands, at least in Wisconsin.
Yeah, when we talk about this race, we got to talk about the polls first. And a lot of people think the polling was off. Some think it was a snapshot in time. Others say that's why all of the other candidates, the Democrats, aside from Francesca Hong, dropped out, including David Crowley. He got a number of calls over the last couple of weeks, I'm told, including from the governor, Evers, there, urging him to jump back in because Francesca Hong, because of her past statements, including the one that has risen up most notably before the election, saying or suggesting that Thanksgiving should be canceled. They felt like she was too extreme, too left to win in a general in Wisconsin, especially up against somebody like Tom Tiffany, has the endorsement of President Trump, who won 2 out of 3 times that he ran for president in Wisconsin, despite that state having a Democratic governor and has a very mixed history. Take a listen to a little bit of what Tom Tiffany had to say. Remember, these two are going to face off against each other in a matter of months.
The fight is about Wisconsin. So I ask you tonight to stand with me. Stand with me for our fight for lower taxes and good-paying jobs. Stand with me as we demand accountability of our state government. Stand with me as we fight for better schools and safer communities. Stand with me as we protect the Wisconsin way of life. And stand with me as we move Wisconsin forward.
Christine, for Tiffany's sake, like many Republicans around the country, they're hoping that the more socialist, the Democratic socialist candidates will win. I'm sure he's not thrilled about the prospect of facing off against someone like Crowley in November. Christine?
Hey, Julie, let's talk about South Carolina. Darlene Graham finished first there. That's, you know, the former Senator Lindsey Graham's sister. She's appointed to that seat. She did not have enough support, though, to avoid a runoff with Congressman Ralph Norman. How different does this race look now that it's down to just two candidates?
Look, sources that I spoke to leading up to this race really felt like this was going to be the outcome, that it was going to be a runoff between Darlene Graham Nardone, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, and Ralph Norman, somebody who's quite conservative in the House, who has a mixed history with President Trump. That's why Trump extended, part of the reason why he extended his endorsement and support behind Darlene Graham. But over these next 2 weeks, both of them are going to have to do a lot of work. In Graham Nardone's case, it's to really show voters who she is. She has a very limited voting record, only most recently passing the Russia sanctions bill that her late brother championed for a year before he died. Other than that, voters really don't know her much. And there is some frustration that Trump anointed her with this endorsement. She's going to have to prove it over the next 2 weeks. And Ralph Norman, I talked to him, he really wants it.
And then one more result, Julie, that caught our attention this morning. The longtime Connecticut Congressman John Larson, after nearly three decades in Washington, losing his primary to former Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin. Bronin ran specifically on the need for generational change. I wonder how significant that is.
At 14 terms for Larson, we got it all, right? The progressive test, the test of the president's endorsement, the establishment backing, and the incumbency fatigue. Larson now becomes the 10th incumbent to lose in this House cycle. This is huge and definitely not the outcome that he expected, but certainly voters, at least Democrats, craving that generational change. Christine?
All right. Julie Sturkin, so interesting. Thank you so much. All right, other breaking news we're following this morning. New inflation numbers out. Prices ticked up slightly from last month. Inflation stands the annual rate now at 3.4%. That number a little better than last month, but remains stubbornly above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. It's a frustrating sign for workers, where wage growth is 3.2%, but inflation is 3.4%. That means you have less purchasing power in your family budget. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. Energy prices, Ali, really played a big role here as well. Talk to us a little bit about the mix here.
Yeah, that's been the wild card throughout the course of the year, given the back and forth around the Strait of Hormuz and those lower energy prices that we saw at the start of last month. That helped ease overall inflation a little bit, but like you said, still sticky at 3.4%. Gas prices dropped nearly 3%, but that may be outdated at this point. We have oil prices ticking back up. Gas is above $4 a gallon. That's an affordability threshold for many Americans out there. So there's just various issues that the Fed is contending with, that consumers are contending with, which is why the TBD factor of where rates go from here is so important at this point.
Can we talk about food prices? You made a really good point that overall food prices for like groceries went down a little bit, right? But then the food prices, if you go out to eat, went up. And then there's the cyclospora outbreak, and there's sort of an effect. Can you see the effect on lettuce prices?
Oh, yeah. Lettuce prices dropped 16.4% last month. That's actually the biggest monthly drop on record as consumers pulled back amid that ongoing cyclospora outbreak. And those fears, they seem to have bled into some other items here. Fresh veggies, they also fell last month, those prices, although just 2.6%. So not nearly as severe as we saw with lettuce. And we are seeing that fear hit restaurants, too. We saw Sweetgreen cut its sales outlook. Salad and Go filed for bankruptcy following the outbreak. So we are starting to see that economic effect.
And inflation is still outpacing wages. And that's what starts to feel like you have a little less money to last the month. How does all that factor into the Fed's next decision? Because the Fed could decide to raise interest rates, which would also really affect a lot of families.
Totally. And what's interesting is that following this report, the odds of a rate hike next month, that actually fell a little bit on the heels of this news, because now the Fed is having to contend with two sides of its dual mandate. So the first part is making sure inflation is kept in check, but the second is preserving the labor market. And we have seen a bit of weakness there. So we've heard from several Fed officials who believe we need several rate hikes in order to bring inflation back down to 2%. But that can't come at risk of unraveling the labor market. So the Fed has its work cut out for him. And I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth and a lot of maybe dissents in the coming months.
I think it's safe to say this report gives them a little bit of breathing space,
Yes.
but it's breathing space, to mix my metaphors, while walking a tightrope. You know, it's like...
It's exactly right, Christine. It makes perfect sense to me.
All right, Ali Canal, thank you,
Of
Ali.
course.
All right, now to that secret Air Force plane swap in Turkey. President Trump says a security threat was behind the unusual move to secret him away from Air Force One as he was leaving last month's NATO summit.
Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
Why did they want you to do that?
I guess there was a threat out there. I didn't really ask too much about it. I get a lot of threats.
Trump had publicly boarded Air Force One, even waving for the cameras, before secretly exiting from the other side of that plane and climbing into an airport catering truck. The truck apparently drove him across the tarmac to a smaller military jet, which flew him out of the country, while Air Force One departed without him, but with staffers and reporters on board, and even a couple of cabinet members. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins me now. Gabe, we're learning more about the threat that triggered all of this. What do you know?
Hey there, Christine. Well, a U.S. official tells NBC News that the threat was serious and that it included the possibility of the use of shoulder-fired missiles against President Trump. Now, you just heard the president right there speaking to reporters overnight, trying to downplay this, seeming very nonchalant about the threat. He's said that he's been number one on Iran's kill list before, but this U.S. official says that the threat level and the level of awareness that officials were under was really unprecedented, and that they huddled together during the final hours of that NATO summit in Turkey discussing their options. Now, as you mentioned, there were cabinet secretaries that ended up flying back on that blue and white version of Air Force One, the older plane that included the cabinet secretary, Secretary of State Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, as well as other senior members of the White House staff. But there were other people on that plane, including other administration staff, as well as the traveling press pool, who were not aware that the president was not on the plane and unwittingly boarded the aircraft on the flight to England, Christine.
Yeah, if the threat was serious enough to move the president off Air Force One and White House staff and reporters were on board, do White House officials think that they were potentially still at risk?
Well, look, officially, the White House is not commenting on any of this other than what the president said yesterday. There was one U.S. official that did tell us yesterday that, look, in this type of situation, the president's safety is paramount, that it's governed by a statute, that they don't view the president's safety and that of the people traveling with him as the same. And look, we've spoken with Secret Service experts, former Secret Service officials, who say that they did an incredible job here, that they did all they could to protect the president, and the mission was executed flawlessly. Now, certainly there is some debate about whether the traveling press pool, or at least a representative of the White House Correspondents Association, perhaps, should have been, privately briefed in an off-the-record capacity, much like they were back in 2000 when President Clinton used a decoy plane traveling to Pakistan. That is still being debated, but security experts say that the Secret Service agents did their job in this case.
All right, certainly a really well played out ruse. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. In Colombia, time is running out to find people still trapped in the rubble after Monday's powerful earthquake. At least 211 people have died. Thousands more are still missing. This group here pulling out a 6-month-old baby from the debris. Other rescuers are still hoping to hear survivors calling out from under the concrete to bring them to safety. NBC News correspondent George Solis is on the ground in Colombia with the latest.
Overnight, rescuers telling us they were able to pull a man alive out of this rubble, what used to be an apartment building. Now, rescuers are organizing fast because that critical window for saving lives is quickly closing. Tragically, thousands are still unaccounted for, and that death toll now soaring above 200. This morning, small glimmers of hope amid the devastation in earthquake-ravaged western Colombia. In hard-hit Cali, 31-year-old Diana Troncoso rescued after an agonizing 16 hours buried under her crumbled 4-story apartment building. After finding her in a crevice, Rescuers cheering the life-saving victory. Droves of determined first responders and volunteers again working through the night at the site of this collapsed building. After hours of working, nothing deters this group of volunteers and first responders, all of them hoping for a miracle. In Pereira, a brief moment of silence to listen for signs of life, and then cheers. There are people, one man exclaims. Emergency crews putting this survivor on a stretcher after 36 hours trapped in the rubble. Aerial footage shows the widespread destruction across the region. Buildings flattened, homes crumbled, even schools not spared. 15-year-old Samuel Rubio was in class when the quake struck, sharing this video he filmed, now bringing water to rescuers. I wouldn't be here, the teenager says, if the building had fallen on my school. Angela Yabarba's building collapsed and says it's a miracle of God she's alive, racing down the flight of stairs after knee surgery. Everything was destroyed, she says. The water pipes burst, the floors cracked open. Estefania Peralta says despite the devastation, she's holding on to hope. There's no time to spare, she says. Every minute counts, every minute matters. Aftershocks remain a concern. We actually had one last night over fears compromised buildings could still fall. Today, firefighters now taking the lead, asking volunteers to take a step back to hopefully prevent another tragedy. Back to you.
All right, George Solis. Thank you, George. Across the Midwest, a trail of destruction after a deadly round of summer storms. At least 3 people were killed. The storms blew in wind gusts topping 100 miles an hour. Lightning strikes sparked fires and downed power lines. More than 1 million people are still without power this morning. In Illinois, at least 2 tornadoes touched down, sending objects flying through the air. Meteorologist Angie Lastman will have the forecast in a moment, but we begin with NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa for us in Indiana. And Maggie, millions are without power right now. We're seeing these images of homes destroyed. Talk to us about the damage you're seeing on the ground.
Well, Christine, it's absolutely devastating. And actually, normally we would walk you through it, but I just told your producers you might be able to see over my right shoulder here. There are people going through the damage. That's the family of, they tell us, the woman killed in this house fire and explosion here yesterday. So we're staying back. We're going to stay stagnant. We're going to give them their space. It was just, as you can imagine, a stunning tragedy here in Portage. Neighbors say as the storm roared through, this home caught fire, exploding moments later. Again, authorities confirming killing 1 person. And that, as you can imagine, was just one layer in this devastating 24 hours of severe weather.
Millions waking up to devastation across the Midwest after monster summer storms barreled through multiple states, packing winds powerful enough to flip this car, lift this train car right off its tracks.
Oh my God!
And blow the roof off of this gas station.
Oh my God, there it goes, there it goes.
In Portage, Indiana, a home catching on fire, leaving 1 person dead. The cause, the weather, also making it harder for emergency responders to reach the site. Farther south, a 4-year-old boy was killed after a tree fell on his home. Authorities in the state calling Tuesday's storm the worst they've ever seen.
We have not had a disaster of this size before.
The Chicago area also slammed. Intense storm clouds made the day look like night.
Break!
Crowds at the iconic Navy Pier taking cover in a parking garage. In Frankfort, Illinois, crews spraying hot spots for hours after this house fire that officials believe was caused either by a lightning strike or powerful winds ripping down live power lines. Tammy McKee and her mother barely made it out alive.
It's just devastating. It's heartbreaking.
In Ohio, the governor declaring a state of emergency amid widespread flooding after storms there claimed at least 1 life. The monster system also knocking out power to more than 1 million customers across 4 states. A relentless summer of severe weather that's showing no sign of letting up.
And back out here in Portage, again, a heartbreaking image of just this family behind us going through the rubble of this destroyed home, telling us that their mother, a woman in her 80s, was killed in an explosion and house fire here. And Christine, as you saw, like as far as we know, 3 deaths across the Midwest, this being one of them. So it's truly just a region dealing with another layer of heartbreak after this relentless summer of severe storms.
Oh, it just breaks your heart. All right, Maggie Vespa. Thanks, Maggie. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, let's start with those storms. Where are they going next, and when could there be relief?
Yeah, so some of those same spots, unfortunately, Christine, are going to see kind of the same active weather pattern going through the rest of the day today. And we're already ramping things up. Even since the early hours of this morning, we've seen kind of these thunderstorms working across parts of the Ohio Valley and the Midwest, where already flood watches and even flash flood warnings are in effect. 17 million people across this region dealing with those flood warnings. More thunderstorms back off to the west as we see the potential for another day of some strong to even severe storms developing. Here's where we're expecting kind of most of that active potential. The plains and the Midwest as this kind of front sticks around through at least the day today. By tomorrow, more even potentially from Colorado to Ohio, we'll see them be scattered. But again, all of the ingredients are there with that extreme heat and plenty of moisture to tap into. So everything that we need to get some of these thunderstorms going is on the table. 18 million people, including parts of the plains stretching out to the Ohio Valley, included in this. Wind gusts are going to be that main threat that we look at, but potentially dealing with hail and isolated tornado. The good news, Christine, most of that wind gust potential is going to be on the lower end than what we saw yesterday.
And what, up to 50 million people are under heat alerts? What's happening there?
Yes, I'm a broken record when it comes to this. We've got more of the heat alerts kind of ongoing across parts of the South. Some of those same areas that have been dealing with this. 52 million people across the Southeast, parts of the plains, as we gear up for another day where we're 10 to even 15 degrees above normal. So it's 90s and triple digits yet again for your actual temperatures. And then we've got places like Mobile today and St. Louis that are going to feel like 106 degrees. Even worse in some spots tomorrow, 110 for Charleston. As far north as Nashville, they're into the upper 90s, Christine, and feeling like 105.
Those are
any relief.
Those are check on your neighbors levels there.
Exactly. The kids, the elderly, making sure that you can find a cool spot. Big deal.
Very short walk of the dog this afternoon.
Exactly.
All right. Nice to see you, Angie Lassman. Thanks. Much more ahead on Current, including new details on the U.S. Marine released from a Russian prison, the update on his health, and the one thing he asked for when he got home. Plus, when Larry met Barack, the hilarious sketch with the former president that's going viral. And later this hour, the growing trend of restaurants banning influencers, how those content creators are responding. We'll get you current after the break. Breaking news overnight, a former Marine who was held in a Russian prison for 4 years is back on American soil this morning. Robert Gilman had been in Russian custody since 2022, detained over disputed charges that he attacked a police officer. The 32-year-old is expected to receive medical treatment after his family raised concerns about his deteriorating health while he was in a Russian prison. President Trump announced his release yesterday, saying that Russia agreed to release him on a humanitarian basis. Joining us now, NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. And Monica, Senator Ed Markey said that Gilman was diagnosed with a dissociative stupor condition. What do we know about how he's doing?
Well, his family is so grateful, they say, to have him home back on U.S. soil, Christine, but we do know some more details about a case of pneumonia that he had suffered while he was being held in Russia that meant that he ended up being hospitalized for that. And with that condition that you specified, we learned more details from Senator Ed Markey, who revealed that it meant that Gilman could not eat, could not really function for several days. And so that is why the appeal was made a bit more urgently to see if they could get him out and to get him back home to the United States. And so that's something that the U.S. government was working on quite furiously to ensure that he could be back so that he can get additional medical care and treatment for that. But he did say that once he wanted to get back, according to President Trump, the only thing he really wanted was a giant cheeseburger, which President Trump and the U.S. said they were able to deliver for him. Christine.
Monica, the president says that Russia asked for no one in return. This wasn't an exchange. What do we know about the deal the U.S. struck with Vladimir Putin to get this done?
Right. This was done specifically on a humanitarian basis, we're learning from the White House. And the president did say he asked President Putin specifically to release the former Marine. And that was agreed to, again, because of his condition and the way he was reacting to his illness. And so we believe that that is the ongoing case. But as always, Christine, there are likely behind the scenes details as there are more Americans that are being held in Russia that the U.S. is still working to free. Christine?
All right. Monica Alba at the White House for us. Thank you, Monica. Now to new escalations in the war with Iran. Yemen's Coast Guard says Iran-backed Houthis attacked a commercial vessel, killing 6 and injuring 10 others in the Red Sea. If confirmed, this would mark the first deaths in a Houthi strike, a strike on shipping since the start of this war. Meanwhile, Central Command said yesterday that they fired 2 Hellfire missiles at a Panamanian-flagged ship that tried to break through their blockade of Iranian ports. Meantime, Reuters reports the number of vessels going through the Strait of Hormuz has dropped to a 1-week low, just 8 ships. Before the war, it was more like 130 a day. Joining us now, NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Matt, how significant are these Houthi attacks, and what does it tell us about where we are in this war?
Well, I mean, it shows that the Iranians have managed to bring in yet another one of their proxy groups into the fight and to snarl up yet another major passage for international shipping and particularly energy out of the Middle East. The Houthis are positioned just perfectly to block the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Now, this is a group who the U.S. has fiercely attacked over the past several years. President Trump attacked them in a very large overnight attack just last year, long before this Iran war ever came about in late February. The Israelis have been attacking the Houthis as well. But just 1 or 2 weapons is really all it takes to scare off insurance companies and shipping companies from sending boats through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Now, this is the strait that leads up to the Sinai Peninsula and the Sinai Canal. So we're talking about a huge, huge bottleneck, and one that, just like the Strait of Hormuz across the peninsula, could end up really, really hurting oil prices and prices for all goods throughout the world if the Houthis succeed in blocking traffic there. So that would add another huge headache.
The Iranians say they are not going to open the Strait of Hormuz until the United States lifts its own naval blockade. But the Americans are holding firm. And we just saw that with the U.S. attack on this Panamanian ship. So we're in a standoff here.
That's right. It's one blockade versus another blockade. And this is how it's been for quite a while, though. It is the Iranians who, because of their position and because of the geography of the strait that gives them 3 out of the 4 spots that basically border the Strait of Hormuz, they are the ones who ultimately are going to be deciding who gets to go in and out of the strait. The Iranians are also crippled by the American blockade, and that's one of the reasons why they're having so many economic problems and they're seeing inflation spike.
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you so much. From a White House TikTok ban lifted to Barack Obama laughing it up with Larry David. David, let's get you politically current this morning. A defeat in the Minnesota Republican primary for governor for MyPillow founder Mike Lindell. The entrepreneur and Trump-backed candidate had been leading in limited public polling heading into this week's vote. Republican Minnesota State House Speaker Lisa DeMuth will face Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar in November. The White House TikTok ban is officially over. Executive branch employees can now download TikTok on government devices. The ban had been tied to national security concerns over the app's previous owner, ByteDance. It's been lifted now that the platform has U.S. owners. Former President Barack Obama making a surprise appearance on Larry David's HBO show, Life, Larry and the Pursuit of Unhappiness. In the sketch, David plays a White House aide who accidentally drops a smoothie on the president's jacket, and Obama reprises his 2014 presidential role.
Larry, you can't have a sip of my smoothie. Your mouth and your lips.
So you're a no sips guy?
No, I give sips.
Uh-huh.
But not you.
What?
Old lips. I don't want that touching my glass.
I got an idea. A tan suit.
What do you think?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, the tan suit makes a comeback. All right. Very funny. Coming up, Everything you need to know about today's total eclipse. Scientist Michio Kaku joins us with what we can learn from these celestial spectacles and the outrageous fun at last night's White Sox game honoring Chicago's very own Pope Leo. You want to hear about the Pope hat giveaway and what happened in the fifth inning. More current right after this. From Pope Night at the White Sox to a rescue caught on camera, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. We start here in New York, where a new hearing is set for Friday in the federal case against Luigi Mangione. It's raising renewed questions about whether a federal plea deal may be in the works. NBC New York previously reported that Mangione's legal team had talks with prosecutors. His state trial is expected to begin next month. He has pleaded not guilty in both cases. To Michigan, where new police body camera footage shows the rescue of 3 missing tubers. 2 women and a 9-year-old boy were lost on the river and ended up in remote woods. State police found them after 3 days. They were treated for cuts, dehydration, and exhaustion. The Chicago White Sox celebrated superfan Pope Leo at the ballpark last night, giving out more than 38,000 Pope hats to a sellout crowd at Rate Field. The players joined in, putting on the hats after hitting home runs. In the fifth inning, the fans shook hands for peace be with you. And while the White Sox lost to the Reds, it was still a memorable night. Right, it's a celestial display that's been known to reduce viewers to tears. In just a few hours, a total solar eclipse will sweep across the northern hemisphere. The path of totality will cross from Greenland, Iceland, and northern Spain. And some of us here in the United States will get a glimpse of a partial eclipse. Joining us now from Spain, NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez. And I can imagine the excitement there is just thrilling.
Christine, we are really in the final countdown right now. There's no shortage of sunshine here in northern Spain at this moment, but 4 hours from now, it is going to be a totally different picture. As you said, we are right in the path of totality. That means we are going to get the complete solar blackout and the total wonder of the total eclipse.
This morning, excitement building across Europe with lines for solar glasses ahead of the continent's first total solar eclipse in more than 25 years. The sun will be completely covered by the moon for millions of people along the path of totality, which runs from Greenland past Iceland and into northern Spain. The total eclipse here will last just 1 minute, 43 seconds. But long enough to attract nearly 500,000 tourists who will be gazing skyward.
It's an amazing event.
These photographers set up at a Spanish vineyard, hoping for the perfect shot of the celestial spectacle. Thousands of Americans have flown in, including the Fulmer family from Las Vegas.
Point to the sky. Right up there.
Today's eclipse falling on Max's 3rd birthday.
We are chasing eclipse to see the whole line of totality.
This will be her 2nd and my 3rd.
And this is my 1st.
Oh, you're in for a real treat.
Any tips for me?
Savor the moment.
Yeah.
Just
really live in it. You're like looking through the glasses and you're seeing it, and then all of a sudden it disappears in the glasses and you take them off and it's like this fireball in the sky.
Like millions of other Americans, they hit the road to see the 2024 eclipse over the U.S.
What's the moon doing?
He's taking a bite.
Of what?
Of a little sun.
He's taking a bite of the little sun?
Very excited.
Al covered it for today from Dallas.
Let's get him on, okay, because it's starting to come. Oh, wow.
Today's eclipse will be partially visible in the northern U.S. A reminder of 2024's moment of solar magic, when it felt like the whole country was looking up in awe.
Oh, wow. I remember that moment. Raf, for those of us here in the U.S. who are lucky enough to be in the eclipse's path, where can they catch a glimpse?
Yeah, so Christine, we definitely are going to have the best views here in Europe, but the eclipse not going to totally bypass the U.S. It's going to be partially visible starting in Alaska. That's 8:27 a.m. local time. The sun there at the peak of the eclipse going to be 37% covered. And then in the continental United States, the eclipse will be visible a little after 1:50 p.m. Eastern. If you're in Maine, you're going to see the sun about a quarter covered. My hometown of Boston, about 16% coverage. Christine, I am sorry to say, by the time the eclipse reaches you, New York City, we are down to just 9%. So that is going to be just a little sliver of the sun that is sliced off. But a little PSA, Christine, wherever you are, if you're looking at the eclipse, you definitely need to be wearing your super fashionable solar eclipse glasses, because we definitely don't want any burned eyeballs out there. Christine.
Protect your eyeballs. All right, we have been warned. Raf Sanchez, thank you so much. Joining us now, Professor of Theoretical Physics, Michio Kaku. Dr. Kaku, we saw all the excitement in 2024 here in the U.S. It feels like Europe is just as excited for this there as well. What is it about this experience that makes people, it's just so thrilling for people?
I think it's because we are communing with the universe. And just remember that this is part of a triple whammy. 3 astronomical events happening at the same time. First, we have the eclipse. Second, tonight is the Perseid meteor shower. Once every minute on average, a meteor will sail across the night sky tonight. Third, the alignment of the planets. If you're talking about Mercury, you're talking about Jupiter, you're talking about Mars, there's an alignment of the planets tonight. So it's a triple whammy, not just the eclipse, but the meteor shower and the alignment of the planets all taking place right before you.
I mean, the eclipse alone is just such a big event with millions and millions of people going out to see it. When the skies turn dark, our atmosphere changes, right? What are scientists doing during the eclipse to measure that or to learn from that?
Well, they realize that when the eclipse takes place, it affects the atmosphere, not just of the Earth, but also of the sun and the moon as well. And therefore, this is a cosmic opportunity to discuss Mother Nature in action. So we're beginning to see how the universe is put together by analyzing what's happening right in our own backyard. And that's why we study this moon, we study the sun, and we begin to understand Mother Nature as a consequence.
I mean, it's amazing to me that for millennia, humans have stepped outside and seen this happen and been in awe. And now we're planning for it. For most of time, nobody planned for it. It just happened. What more do we learn from events like this? Or what does it say about how much we're learning as humans?
Well, as you pointed out, we used to think it was magic. There are legends, there are fairy tales, all sorts of mythology around the eclipse. And now we're beginning to shoot space probes and have telescopes that analyze the surface of the sun and the characteristics of the moon. So this is no longer a source of mysticism and magic. It's a question of modern physics and chemistry.
And the most dramatic meteor shower tonight as well. Why are the conditions so good for that?
Well, the Earth passes through the tail of a comet, the Swift-Tuttle comet. And when we pass through the tail of a comet, we get hit with meteors, about 1 every minute. Tonight, after midnight, go outside, look up. Once every minute, you'll see a shooting star go right across the night sky. And now's your time to wish upon a star. You'll be able to do it tonight.
Over and over, potentially.
That's right, once every minute on average.
All right, Dr. Michio Kaku, so nice to see you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Or you can watch live coverage of the total eclipse later today, right here on NBC News Now. Coming up, the politics of inflation. Are Americans focused on affordability more than ever? And what could that mean for the midterms? Plus, tonight's Powerball drawing and the billion-dollar jackpot will have some ways you can maybe invest that money and have a surefire, higher probability win. We'll get you current after this. Breaking economic news this morning. Inflation remaining stubborn last month, with prices ticking up slightly. The inflation rate now stands at 3.4%. Energy prices, key here. Gas prices are up more than $1 a gallon on average since February, the start of the U.S. war with Iran. Utility prices are 40% higher than just 5 years ago. And basic food items like chicken and orange juice, items you all have in your refrigerator, are up since President Trump returned to office last January. Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez and Larry Sabato, director for the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Gabe, let me begin with you. What are we hearing from the president on these new inflation numbers? He has said repeatedly in weeks past that prices are coming down. This clearly shows that prices are still rising.
Well, look, Christine, you cover this quite a bit, but the White House has been trying to spin these numbers and saying that, as you mentioned, that they will come down once the Iran war wraps up. There are very real questions about when exactly that will happen. And actually, we just heard from White House spokesperson about these latest numbers, and he says that this report is further proof that President Trump's long-term agenda is delivering, that prescription drug and auto insurance costs continue to fall, that real wages are rising, and beef prices have cooled. And he goes on to say, despite temporary disruptions stemming from Iran, core CPI is near the Fed's 2% target rate. Now, the president was asked about the economy last night as he gaggled, as he spoke with reporters coming back from Ohio. Listen to how the president framed it.
The country's doing well. The stock market's fantastic record. We have 79 records so far in a short period of time. More people are working right now in the United States than ever before, and prices are dropping fast. Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it.
So certainly the president painting a rosy picture there, Christine. But as you know, recent polls have shown that a growing number of Americans are frustrated and are disapproving of how the president has handled the economy. And while the unemployment rate has ticked down, which the White House has pointed out, many analysts say that's at least in large part because more Americans have stopped looking for work. But at this point, the White House is trying to paint the rosy picture despite this report, Christine.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez of the White House, thank you. I want to bring in Larry Sabato now. Let's look at this economic picture through the eyes of the American voter heading into the midterm. The president has said this is a golden age for the American economy. Do we think voters believe him here?
I think they caught on to Trump some time ago. Look, most people understand a president's going to sell the most positive view he can come up with, or his advisors can come up with, but that has no real relationship to the truth. Now, also, we all know what we pay every week at the grocery store. We all know what we pay every week at the gas station. So all the verbiage in the world from Washington or any other place isn't going to have any real effect on how we evaluate the economy. We know it's bad. We know we're paying more. We're upset about the war in Iran, and we're upset also about corruption. I think that increasingly is having an effect on this election. And all of it is a big, messy ball for Donald Trump that's resulted in his approval ratings being somewhere in the 30s, depending on the poll.
Affordability so often leads the polls as a big concern. And this Republican pollster quoted in the Wall Street Journal really struck me. He said that this moment marks a significant shift, that people know right down to the very dollar what they're paying for electricity or for beef or for gas. Do politicians in Washington understand how the affordability problem is so profound for American families, even as their home prices are up, their 401ks are up, they have a job, but the affordability issue is a nagging concern?
Well, I'm sure that their individual election polls show it to some degree. They avoid that if possible. You know, many of these members no longer hold town halls. And that used to be a place where, yes, you would get the usual cheerleaders showing up for the congressman, generally produced by the staff. But you also got a fair number of people who turned up to express real concerns that they had in their lives. Well, they don't do that anymore. They like to have those telephone town halls, which are a joke, where you can quickly cut somebody off and you can make sure that it really is stuffed only with people who support you, or mostly with people who support the congressman. So I don't know how much they know. They're certainly hearing some of it now that they're in their home states and districts, and the election is creeping up on them, and they'll really know it when the votes start flowing in.
Yeah, and then we'll really know whether affordability is that driving issue or it's something else. Larry Sabato, so nice to see you. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon as we get closer to midterms. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, are you feeling lucky? Tonight's Powerball jackpot has soared to an estimated $1 billion. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, if you win the lotto, what should you do? Here's my advice. Stay quiet. Hire a tax attorney. Consider moving to a low-tax state. And I say take the lump sum, but talk to the tax attorney about that first. Here's another little secret. You're not going to win. Sorry. The odds of winning tonight's jackpot, 1 in 292 million. You have a better chance of becoming the president of the United States. That's 1 in 32 million. You have a better chance of winning an Olympic medal, 1 in 662,000. Or finding a pearl in an oyster. That's 1 in 10,000. At least that one might actually pay off, or at least you'll get a pearl. You know what else pays off? How about instead of hoping you strike it rich, you get rich quietly on your own terms? Hear me out. The average American spends about $320 a year on lottery tickets. Now, you could burn it and get some, relief from that, but you're probably not going to win very much. Let's say instead of spending that money, you grow it. Invest those $320 a year in the market. You'll earn close to $1,900 from compound interest over 10 years. Tack on another decade, that's about 12 grand. 30 years, you're at 43,000. You get the point. And if you were actually to invest more than just the $300, those numbers get exponentially bigger. The better bet than the lottery, get rich quietly, slowly over time. That's the winning ticket. All right, after the break, tech on trial. Jury selection begins today in a new trial against the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. And next hour, the reunion between a toddler and the hero cop who saved him from choking. We have more current right after this. Meta is heading to court today for the biggest test yet of social media's effects on children. 29 states allege the tech giant deliberately designed its platforms like Facebook and Instagram to be addictive to kids. Meta denies those allegations. The company says damages could reach $1.4 trillion, just shy of its $1.5 trillion market cap. It could also be forced to make sweeping changes to its platforms. Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Danny, just last week, Meta was ordered to pay $500 million in a similar case in New Mexico. Earlier this year, it lost a landmark case in Los Angeles. What makes this trial so different?
Two things, scale and remedy. Scale in Los Angeles, that was one woman, and in New Mexico, that was one state. This is nearly 30 states. So that's where you get from billions to possibly trillions of dollars. And the other thing is the remedy. The other two cases were about dollars, and that's it.
Right.
In this case, they are asking a judge to essentially redesign these apps. Consider that. Some federal judge redesigning, tinkering with the machinery of these apps that require, super geniuses who understand coding. You might get an order or a decision from a judge that says, this is what I'd like to see you change.
That's amazing. So we're talking about sweeping changes to Facebook, to Instagram, to the platforms that Meta owns and runs. I wonder what that could look like for users. I mean, clearly these plaintiffs hope and these states hope that it looks a little safer for users.
Age restrictions, time limits, all of the features, because ultimately this is really a products case, what lawyers would call a products case. They're saying this is a defective product, just like you might have a defective mop or a battery or a device. They're saying instead the defective product is that thing that lives on our phones. And they're asking the judge essentially to redesign it to make it less defective.
This is big, and this could have a lot of implications for how we use social media. Danny Ceballos, thank you so much. Nice to see you. All right, in Nantucket, a local store going viral for their no influencers sign. Yes, no influencers allowed. It's driving both online praise and some backlash. NBC's Kaylee Hartung has more.
The once quiet enclave of Nantucket, a coastal getaway for celebrities and famous families, and an idyllic backdrop to some of the hottest recent shows.
I'm just trying to move forward. So I'm planning on having a girls' weekend to Nantucket.
Is now booming with a different type of visitor, trying to perfectly capture that aesthetic shot.
We're headed to the island today for an influencer event.
The island's summertime popularity stirring up a heated debate.
How stupid can you be to put a sign in a store that prohibits basically free marketing?
A popular local store, the Four Winds Craft Guild, displaying this sign over the summer.
This sign is funny. It's funny.
Some got what the store owner said was a joke, as a post of the sign went viral.
What happened to humor? It's just a little bit of local humor.
But swift backlash came with the buzz.
It sent the message that creators aren't welcome, and I don't think that's fair.
The owner, John Sylvia, told the New York Times sometimes his store is used as someone's background, a stage, while influencers say they can be good for business.
As a business owner and as a content creator, I live this tension every day. Our influencers are really important to us, and I know that they can make a big difference for any small business. I do think there are creators who could be more conscious of how they show up in shared spaces. I really do. But putting up a sign just saying no influencers, blanket, no influencers allowed, just seems a little tone deaf.
In recent months, Nantucket has become an influencer hotspot.
We were influenced on TikTok to come visit, and we're having a great time.
with long lines now a common sight on what used to be a very private island.
The town has become an absolute zoo. Lines everywhere.
Paige Lorenz, a lifestyle creator and founder of the brand Dairy Boy, launched a flagship boutique in Nantucket earlier this summer. Droves of eager customers lining up to buy her merchandise.
Gearing up for a very busy end of the month. We have a big draw.
And it's not just in Massachusetts. The rise of influencer tourism, part of the reason why there's been an influx in some popular areas, including destinations in Europe like Saint-Tropez and the Amalfi Coast. And in many major cities, TikTokers sometimes even taking over the latest trendy spots. All of it highlighted recently in Emily in Paris.
Excuse me, how did you hear about this place?
Oh, it's all over Instagram and TikTok. You ruined Solitano. It was paradise and now it's Disneyland.
In the U.S., some towns taking action, like Sleepy Hollow Farm in Vermont, where fall foliage is a sight to behold. Neighbors petitioning to close nearby roads to prevent tourists from flooding the streets to snap a photo. Back in Nantucket, despite the ongoing debate, many locals seem to be completely unfazed by all the extra love their town is getting.
Are influencers good or bad for Nantucket?
What are influencers? What are they? I have no idea what you're talking about.
As more visitors continue to flock to the island for some summer fun.
I don't think it's really about good or bad. Nantucket's an influential place. People are always going to want to come here and, showcase the island. So for me, it's just about enjoying Nantucket.
Kaylee Hartung, NBC News.
All right, there's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. And good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Secret operation, more on the elaborate plan to whisk the president out of Turkey, the threat that prompted unprecedented action from the Secret Service. Decision 2026, the Democratic divide on display in a stunning primary upset, what it signals for the party going forward. The price you pay. We'll dive into new inflation numbers out this morning, why they're extra loaded for the Fed. Devastating quake. First responders and volunteers are combing through the rubble in Colombia. We'll have the stories of survival. And good to be with you this Wednesday, August 12th. We got a lot of news to get to this morning. Let's begin with breaking news and some surprising results from last night's primary elections. First to Wisconsin, where NBC News projects Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley pulled off a dramatic upset in the Democratic primary for governor, defeating Democratic Socialist State Representative Francesca Hong, who had gone into Election Day as the apparent frontrunner. Crowley now advancing to the general election, where he'll face Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany in November. And in South Carolina, the Republican Senate race is headed to another round. Appointed Senator Darlene Graham, currently holding the seat following the death of her brother, Lindsey Graham, she will face Congressman Ralph Norman in a runoff. Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill reporter Julie Sirkin. Julie, start with us in Wisconsin, where David Crowley pulled off one of the night's biggest surprises. He had just dropped out just a few weeks ago, then jumped back in and ended up defeating the Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong, who, according to polling, she had the momentum. How was Crowley able to turn this around?
Crowley jumped out, Christine, as did the other Democrats, because of the momentum that everybody saw in the polling for Hung. Not so. It didn't play out like that last night. Crowley jumping back in after being urged by party leaders who were nervous about the prospects of somebody like Francesca Hung with her controversial past statements, including wanting to end Thanksgiving at one point, going up against a Republican in a state that President Trump won 2 out of 3 times that he was on the ballot there. Crowley, though, for his part, talking this morning, asking supporters to coalesce. Take a listen to what we heard from him.
We know the most patriotic thing that we can do as Wisconsinites and as Americans is to see those who disagree with us as human beings, deserving the same rights and the same opportunities as everyone else. Instead of fearing those we cannot understand and letting that fear divide us, patriotism is doing the work to see the humanity in all of our neighbors. It is our work that puts our future generations first and prioritizes progress for all of us.
Now, Christine, in a string of wins for progressives around the country, including last night in Minnesota, this one was really unique. And certainly for Tom Tiffany, the Republican House Freedom Caucus member endorsed by President Trump, that David Crowley will face in November. He was certainly hoping to face off against someone like Hung, who he can label as a socialist, even those communist undertones that we've been hearing from Republicans. He can't say that about Crowley.
The late Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham, who's appointed to his seat, she finished on top. Now there's a runoff. Does her strategy have to shift here? Because this is going to be a different kind of race now.
Sources that I was talking to going into this race expected this outcome. None of them reached that 50% needed to avoid a runoff situation in South Carolina. So we're going to see Darlene Graham Nardone, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, face off. You see it there against Ralph Norman, who is a congressman. He did not endorse President Trump the last time around. He endorsed Nikki Haley for governor. They have a mixed, storied history there. So Trump's endorsement behind Graham was propelled in part because of his emotional attachment to her late brother, his really close ally, his friend Lindsey Graham. But also it surprised some Republicans in South Carolina that I'm talking to who feel like he should have waited a little bit. These next 2 weeks are going to be crucial for Graham Nardone to really introduce herself to voters there. But Ralph Norman, he really wants this, and he's going to go for it, Christine.
And finally, Julie, another notable result in Connecticut, the longtime Congressman John Larson losing after nearly 3 decades in Washington to a much younger former Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin. He made generational change a central part of his campaign. How much should we read into this?
Christine, more than a 20-point margin. You see those numbers on your screen. 14 terms in the House for John Larson. This is huge. We got a little bit of everything here last night. We got this desire for generational change, this anti-incumbency sentiment that we're seeing not only on the Democratic side, on the Republican side, too. And we also got this progressive win, like I mentioned, in Minnesota. But also we saw that upset in Wisconsin. So we saw a little bit of everything on this primary night last night. Both parties have a lot to take away from it. Christine?
And thank you, Julie, so much. Now to new details about that extraordinary security maneuver involving President Trump. The president confirming why he was secretly moved off Air Force One as he left last month's NATO summit in Turkey.
Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
Why did they want you to do that?
I guess there was a threat out there. I didn't really ask her much about it. I get a lot of threats.
Trump was seen publicly boarding Air Force One that day, but unbeknownst to the reporters already on board, secretly slipped out the other side of the plane using a catering truck to reach a different military jet. Air Force One then took off without the president, but with White House staff and reporters still on board. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins me now. Monica, this was clearly no routine security precaution, moving the president secretly across the tarmac, hidden in a catering truck. What more are we learning about the threat that led to such an elaborate operation?
Yeah, clearly the White House was taking this very seriously, Christine. In fact, there was the risk, we're learning from a U.S. official, of a shoulder-fire missile that could have potentially targeted that older Air Force One plane. That is what they said at the time the president was going to be taking. Of course, remember, in front of cameras, they even showed him boarding that plane and then deplaning it. But what we didn't know at the time was that he had moved to that other military aircraft. So they are stressing that this was a situation where they had to take that extreme of a measure. But something that doesn't really make a lot of sense is that older Air Force One plane is supposed to have security measures that could potentially deal with something like that kind of a threat. But obviously there may be more to this that we just don't have the full picture of. And remember that the added layer and complication to all of this is that he had flown to Turkey on the Qatari donated jet, but ultimately that also had some issues in terms of questions about whether it had all of the security features that it needed to fly overseas, of course, neighboring Iran, where we were there in Turkey. So that was just another incredibly interesting detail and angle to this really wild plot that was covert and only revealed by the news media. Christine.
Yeah, and a trick they're not going to be able to do again anytime soon because we all know about it now, I guess. But if the president needed to be moved off Air Force One, why did the plane still depart with White House staff and reporters on board? Have officials explained that?
Yeah, not just staff and reporters, but cabinet secretaries. We know that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was on that plane, the so-called decoy plane, because the president was not on it. We know that Defense Secretary Hegseth did accompany President Trump on that third military aircraft, but also Secretary of State Marco Rubio was on that plane with Secretary Bessent, as well as some other aides. And in the words of one of them, effectively, they have made the argument that they say they know what they sign up for when they work for this president, when they work for a White House and an administration, that the security of the president is paramount. That's the first priority, and that they undertake any risks associated with that when they fly with him. Christine?
All right, Monica Alba. Thank you so much, Monica, at the White House for us. Other breaking news this morning, we're following new inflation numbers. Prices ticked up slightly from last month. Inflation now at 3.4%. It was 3.5% the month before. This is all stubbornly above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Wage growth also not keeping up with inflation. Wage growth about 3.2%. That's stifling purchasing power for workers nationwide. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. Energy prices playing a driving role in recent months in the inflation story. How did that fare this particular report?
Yeah, Christine, energy prices have really been the wild card this year, given all the back and forth around the Strait of Hormuz. And lower energy prices that we saw at the start of last month, that helped ease that overall headline figure just a bit, 3.4% compared to June. However, that's still pretty sticky. When we take a look at categories, the energy category, again, falling 1.5%, but that's, not as significant as the drop that we saw in June when energy fell 5.7%. And then you're looking at some other categories, food, shelter, still stubborn here. We are waiting for those significant declines, at least on a month-over-month basis. And then if we take a look at how energy is impacting things like gas, fuel oil, motor oil, once again, we are seeing those declines here, but if you compare that to June, we're seeing some of that softness reverse. And now with gas above $4 a gallon, oil prices ticking back up, I expect that's a trend we'll continue to see. And then airfares, that actually went up 2.2% in July. It's been ticking up throughout the course of this past year, so still pretty expensive to fly, Christine.
Yeah. The airlines are passing on their higher fuel costs because of the Iran war, and people are still buying tickets, so they can keep those fares.
Going up,
they'll
likely.
keep the fares up. Various food items like lettuce saw big price swings. Tell us what's happening at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah, lettuce really stood out to me. I mean, 16.4% decline as consumers were really changing their behaviors due to the cyclospora outbreak. And that seems to have bled into some other categories. Fresh veggies, for example, falling 2.6%. We did see an uptick in fresh foods, 2.2%. And ground beef is an interesting one. Last month, falling 1.6%. But on a year-over-year basis, beef prices are still up around 9%. And this is because of shortages in cattle here in the United States. So your burger, your steak, that's likely going to keep going up.
Yeah, I remember when beef was $3.99 a pound just a few years ago, and it is not anymore. Our paychecks are just not going as far. How do you think that plays into the Fed's next interest rate decision?
It's going to be huge for the Fed here. I mean, wages 3.2%, inflation 3.4%. Your paycheck isn't going as far. Your purchasing power is a lot less. And the Fed has to contend with a lot of different data points. We've seen some weakness in the labor market. At the same time, inflation is still above the Fed's 2% target. We will be seeing some other data points between now and when the Fed meets next month. That includes producer prices, which will actually be coming tomorrow. That's wholesale inflation, what businesses are paying. And that's usually a good indicator on what the consumer will pay, since businesses usually tend to pass those cost increases onto the consumer. So a lot more data points to come, but the Fed, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do on interest rates in the coming weeks.
All right, that's your metaphor, rock and a hard place. Mine is walking a tightrope.
We're testing different types of metaphors today, Christine.
We have plenty that we can roll out in the months ahead. All right, Ali Canal, thank you. All right, today people are picking up the pieces after another round of summer storms left behind a trail of destruction. At least 3 people have died. Severe thunderstorms packing winds up to 100 miles per hour toppled trees and left homes in shambles. Lightning strikes sparked fires and downed power lines. More than 1 million people are still without power this morning. Near Chicago, 2 tornadoes touched down, sending debris just flying through the air. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa. She's from a hard-hit town there in Indiana. Maggie, you've been speaking with people there who lost everything. What are they telling you?
Well, Christine, I mean, no one more than the family who were just sifting through the rubble behind us here of this home that authorities confirm caught fire yesterday as the storms roared through, and the neighbors say just exploded. And authorities confirmed one person was killed in this blast. The family just told us, and we can bring this here first, that woman's name is 88-year-old Leona Rice. And we talked to her sons who were here sifting through the rubble, just in utter shock that they had lost their mom during yesterday's storm. And authorities say absolutely it was the storm that caused this disaster. So suffice it to say, our hearts go out to them at this point. We did earlier, the family didn't want to talk on camera. A neighbor told us he was just half a block down when the explosion happened. He told us about what the storm was like, what the explosion was like yesterday. Here's part of our conversation.
Winds died down from maybe 100 to 40, but it was still blowing strong, branches, debris, when the loud explosion occurred.
You heard it.
Oh, shook my whole house. Dust come down. It was almost white out from dust. And I thought a jet had crashed.
You thought a jet had crashed?
That's what it sounded like a jet had crashed. It was just instant kaboom.
Yeah, so again, that was the neighbor who just was nearby and heard this blast. And again, authorities saying that one person was killed. We can now confirm Leona Rice was her name. She was 88 years old. Christine, her sons tell us her husband was at a doctor's appointment when this happened. He came home, saw his house ablaze, learned his wife had been killed. So can't imagine what this family's going through.
Our hearts go out to the Rice family. Just awful. You know, Midwesterners are tough. They see these scary summer storms all the time. This is really different. 3 reported tornadoes across the Midwest yesterday. Walk us through the extent of that damage.
Yeah, it was a really insane and large system. We were in Chicago yesterday as it roared through, and we have some video of kind of the elements in Chicago when they hit. It was blinding rain. It was driving wind. The skies just went black, and this was like mid-morning. It wasn't even lunchtime yet as this happened. You can see some of the damage there. Trees completely uprooted. That's a sign that the ground was really saturated. Look at the intensity of those winds. I mean, you can see how the trees are bending, the intensity of the debris that's flying by. Another area that was really hard hit, Ohio. That state's governor declaring a state of emergency. The winds there were so intense that they flipped over a car on the interstate at one point. They're dealing with widespread flooding. Christine, this was a massive system that, again, just really ravaged large parts of the Midwest. And right now we're seeing storm clouds roll in again, so we could see some more severe weather here throughout the day in this area that's just, frankly, exhausted. Christine.
Yeah. All right. We're going to let you go because if there's bad weather rolling in, don't want to keep you there exposed. Maggie Vespa, thank you so much. In Colombia, time is running out to find survivors trapped in the rubble after Monday's powerful earthquake. At least now 211 people have died. Thousands more are still missing. You can see just how far the devastation stretches, but there are signs of hope. This group here pulling out a 6-month-old baby from that debris. NBC News correspondent George Solis is on the ground for us in Colombia following these rescue efforts.
Overnight here in Cali, rescuers saving another man from this rubble, what used to be an apartment building. Hordes of volunteers coming here, helping to move some of that debris. Tragically, they say they've also pulled out bodies from this rubble. Thousands, unfortunately, are also still unaccounted for here in Western Colombia. That death toll now staggering above 200 lives lost in this horrific earthquake. Firefighters today taking the lead at structure sites just like this one, asking volunteers to take a step back and to not climb on the rubble, which is very difficult because so many volunteers have showed up at sites like this to help clean up debris, to help with the rescue. But now they are urging caution because they don't want anything here to collapse. They are asking them to just take a step back and they will call you as necessary. Aftershocks have also been a concern. There was actually one here last night. There are so many compromised buildings here that engineers have not had a chance to review. So there is a major fear that some of these structures could yet still fall. It's been leading to road closures, which has been complicating getting to and from places. But ambulances are staged at many of these sites. Again, the hope here is that anyone that is still alive can be found. Unfortunately, that window, that critical window for saving them is quickly closing, but that's not deterring the volunteers and the first responders who are continuing to keep hope alive. Back to you.
All right, George Solis, thank you, George. Coming up, the nurse who treated Lindsay Clancy will once again take the stand. Her account of Clancy's fight to improve from her postpartum struggles. Plus, ICE is planning to equip its officers with gloves that deliver electrical shocks. How critics are pushing back on this new policy. And later, the coach of the Indiana Fever called out her critics for, quote, trying to hijack the league. The latest controversy coming out of WNBA. Get your current after the break. New focus in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy, testimony shifting to the medications the mother of three was prescribed before the killings of her children. Yesterday, a nurse practitioner who helped treat Clancy took the stand. Rebecca Gelada recalling how Clancy requested multiple times to change her medications, citing what she described as intolerable side effects. Gelada said she attributed those symptoms to postpartum depression, not the drugs. Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. And Misty, what's the main takeaways from Rebecca Gelada's testimony?
So Rebecca Gelada was treating Lindsay Clancy from the end of November through mid-December. So this is a really, really critical time period. And what we saw was a bunch of MyChart communications between Lindsay Clancy and Gelada describing her symptoms, her side effects, what the medications were doing to her, asking her for questions about the medications, saying that she had horrible thoughts, suicidal ideations. So this testimony, Christine, actually really inured to the benefit of the defense. Some of what we learned was that Lindsay Clancy tried to go to another facility to seek help at the advice of Gelada, but was turned away because she was overly medicated. And Gelada was not communicating with her other psychiatrist or that facility. So all that was established on cross-examination. It was a pretty good day for the defense.
The defense is looking to add a TikToker to the witness list. This is somebody who previously worked at the same psychiatric facility where Clancy was treated. What does defense believe her testimony could be relevant here for?
So this is really interesting. Everybody's got their eyes on TikTok for this trial, including the defense attorney. So this is a former employee of McLean Hospital where Lindsay Clancy was hospitalized from January 1st to January 5th. In a TikTok message, she said, I heard lies coming from the stand regarding McLean. Staffing on holidays is actually really difficult, terrible. And so the defense has said this is a critical witness to explain what it's like when somebody is there on a holiday and what the treatment is like. The judge said, we're not looking for reviews of a hospital here. This isn't TripAdvisor, but did agree to hear arguments regarding whether or not somebody could testify about the staffing and what that means for hospital administration and treatment. Whether or not it's going to be this TikToker or somebody else, the judge is yet to make a decision.
This focus shifting to her medications, Lindsay Clancy's medications. Will they call more witnesses, do you think, around this subject?
So today we have a mental health counselor, Letitia Dukes, who actually was treating Lindsay Clancy at the same time as Gelada. And we're hearing more information about her treatment, about the counseling she received. And it seems like we're still on this train of learning about Lindsay Clancy's treatment during that critical time period. And so we expect more to come on that today.
All right, Misty Maris, nice to see you, Misty. Thank you so much. All right, ICE agents could soon be equipped with gloves that can deliver painful electric shocks, drawing swift criticism from civil rights groups. In a notice released by the Department of Homeland Security, they say these gloves will act as conductive distraction and de-escalation devices. The price tag for the new gear up to $20 million. This comes just days after the agency announced it would be accelerating its rollout to equip all officers in the field with body cameras. Joining us now, NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Julia, what do we know about these gloves and how they work?
Well, they're supposed to conduct a low-voltage electronic emission from these gloves. It's an acronym for glove, but they are, in fact, gloves that these officers would wear when they go out into the field to make arrests. I talked to a senior DHS official who said that these could be turned on with the touch of a button. But, yes, they would use the gloves walking into any encounter. And this official made the argument that this could cut down on lethal force. After all, we saw 2 fatal shootings by ICE officers encountering people in their cars last month, although it could be hard to get their hands on a driver. But they said it could be used any time that someone is resisting arrest, and that they would not use them on high-risk individuals like pregnant women. But yes, otherwise, it's really within the discretion of the agent or officer who's wearing them at the time.
I wonder, I mean, is there guidance on how and when to use them? Will there be training with this? Because de-escalation training is something that a lot of experts have said is really important. Or is it solely up to the discretion of the officer, Julia?
No, there will certainly be training on how to use them, but their argument here is that it's safer than pepper spray because it doesn't do anything to the public. They say it is painful at first, but that the pain goes away after the hand is removed and that it doesn't leave a mark, but it will certainly grab the attention of the person who is the being affected by these gloves. Where they've been used most frequently is with people inside of the prison system in jails when they're being used to break up a fight, for example. There's no other time, no other evidence we can draw from where federal law enforcement agencies are actually using these making arrests. But yes, they will be trained. Exactly what that training will entail, I don't know yet. But they're to be used whenever someone is non-compliant. That doesn't necessarily mean that the life of the officer is threatened. It's just when someone refuses to do something like put their hands behind their back. That's according to a senior DHS official I spoke to this morning, Christine.
What are you hearing about the rollout of this new policy to equip all ICE agents with body cameras that you reported on for us?
Yeah, that's right. So as of today, they all have them. But as you mentioned, training is key. And so they imagine that they will all be able to be trained by the end of the month and that ICE officers will be required to wear that camera you see right there, most popularly made by Axon. And they had those as a pilot program under the Biden administration, but that program was canceled by Trump. Now they're going to be mandated to use them, and they will have them on in all of their operations. But how quickly the public would actually see that footage after a high-profile incident like a fatal shooting remains to be seen, because as I've been told by DHS, if something is under federal investigation, as all fatal encounters are, they could withhold that video, saying that releasing it could interfere with an investigation or privacy reasons.
All right, Julia Ainsley, a lot of great information. Thank you, Julia. Okay, from an ownership change for the LA Lakers to Spotify's brand new AI label, let's get you financially current this morning. The Los Angeles Lakers have new owners, former media executive Bob Iger and billionaire venture capitalist Josh Kushner. In a statement, the pair said they are lifelong fans and are deeply honored for the opportunity to become stewards of the iconic sports franchise. Price tag, a whopping $12 billion, according to a person familiar with the purchase. Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison may be exiting Hollywood. Ellison told executives last week that he would begin pulling the company out of California this fall if a settlement in the antitrust case isn't reached by the end of next month. The case, filed by 12 states, would block the controversial Paramount-Warner Brothers merger. California's attorney general has called the plan a, quote, attempt to blackmail the state into letting an illegal deal through. Spotify is out with a new feature that will begin labeling AI-generated music with a little badge. Launching in September, the company says artists can choose to identify themselves as AI creators. Spotify will review the accounts. The profiles will be excluded from Spotify's editorial and algorithmic recommendations, meaning they won't pop up in your personalized recs. And now for a check on markets this morning. The Dow down around 24 points. I'd say treading water, basically. Brent crude oil is around $83 a barrel. After the break, retirement risk. Are private equity firms and hedge funds coming for your 401k? And Meta is drawing backlash from women over its AI glasses, why people say the product could be a privacy violation. We have more current right after this. From a total solar eclipse to a big Toyota recall, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. A total solar eclipse is taking place in Europe, set to draw hundreds of thousands of visitors. The eclipse will be visible there today, with the sun expected to be covered for just under 2 minutes. And for some Americans who traveled thousands of miles to see it, the rare event, they tell us, is worth the journey. Toyota is recalling more than 650,000 Camrys worldwide over a software problem that can knock out safety features. The issue can cause the car's display to go blank, possibly deactivating turn signals and hazard lights. Owners will be notified by Toyota and can get a free software update at dealerships. The University of Michigan is changing up how some first-year students are being graded. For the first semester, instead of letter grades, students in the College of Literature, Sciences, and the Arts will receive pass or no credit. The university says it's a pilot designed to ease the stress of students adjusting to college. Right, imagine saving up all you can for retirement only to watch some of that money vanish because of investments you may not have even known were risky. A new proposal backed by President Trump would make it easier for everyday Americans to put 401k and IRA money into risky, dicier investments that include hedge funds, private equity, and cryptocurrency. Supporters, including the White House, argue this would give everyday Americans access to more investments that could maybe, just maybe, yield higher returns. But critics strongly argue retirement savings are exactly where people should be most protected from risk. Joining us now, Gretchen Morgensen, NBC News Investigations senior financial reporter. This is a really important story that could affect millions of Americans. You've been reporting on this and uncovered kind of a real-life cautionary tale about what happens when a regular investor has exposure to these kind of assets. What'd you find?
Right. Christine, as this proposal rolls out, I really wanted to talk to people who had been in this situation, right? And so I found carpenters in the state of Washington whose pension and retirement accounts had been invested into extremely volatile, risky hedge funds that blew up. And they lost $250 million. And now some of those carpenters can't afford to retire. They have to work longer. So this is a real situation.
Why would private equity firms and hedge funds be interested in being able to have access to our 401ks or IRAs? What's the draw for the big money on Wall Street?
The draw is it's a big pile of money that Americans have set aside for retirement. It's $30 trillion, Christine, and that is a lot of fees and a lot of income for these firms. Also, don't forget, they're starting to lose institutional investors who are not investing as much in these programs and products as they had been. So they need a new pool of capital. And this is one mighty big pool of capital.
So Main Street is a new pile of money potentially to tap. The question here isn't whether some of these investments make money. Sometimes they do. It's how risky or volatile they can be. And should people's retirement be exposed to that kind of risk? That's the big question.
Absolutely. And, you know, historically, some of these programs and products have outperformed the market, but lately they haven't. And so in addition to the fact that they are impossible to sell, very costly, very mysterious, opaque, they're kind of a black box, a lot of these things. In addition to those problems, you've got a situation where the returns are dwindling. So now is not the time, experts tell me, to dive into this area.
How did the White House, and more specifically the president, kind of get on board with this, that these risky investments for the big money Wall Street are a good idea for Main Street?
They seem to have been persuaded that this is a way to diversify. That's what they're saying. We know you can buy S&P 500 funds, but hey, how about having exposure into these other areas? It seems like that is their argument. Now, I would say that they've probably been talking to some of the firms who really know that this is something, a big pot of money that they could have some access to.
Gosh, I was always taught that boring is better, low fees are better, you know, just play it safe for the long term. That's because you only get one shot at saving for retirement.
Absolutely.
All right, Gretchen Morgensen, thank you so much. Great reporting. All right, smart glasses are becoming more common, but they're also raising new questions about privacy. Women are speaking out on social media saying they're being filmed without permission. And what's more, some say it's easy to hack the glasses and remove that blinking light that indicates they're recording. NBC News correspondent Yasmin Vasugian has more on the eye-popping claims putting Meta under the microscope.
Where Jennifer is, Mom?
It's what many thought the future would look like.
Dad, telephones, needles.
Wearable technology, not just pictured on the silver screen anymore, but mirrored in real life. Meta's latest AI glasses look unsuspecting, even stylish. The company collaborating with Ray-Ban, a product that intrigued Breck Metra and her family.
When my husband got them, I mean, we have kids, so he was like, it would just be fun to, like, in the moment, be able to, like, capture something that, you know, to pull out your phone.
A great idea until they were used in her home by someone else.
That still looks small to me, but
She says she and her husband sell vintage T-shirts online, often from their own living room. But while making a sale at her home in Utah, she didn't realize it was all recorded until it was posted to social media.
Usually you can like tell if there's a light on when they're recording. Again, I didn't notice that at all. So initially I was just I felt like kind of violated. My kids were in it. He kind of blurred them out, but he didn't in some of the shots.
She asked the content creator to delete the post, and instead she says he blocked her. She escalated it to Instagram, also owned by Meta.
I filed a complaint and I sent them the video and the screenshot. They sent me an auto email back saying thank you, and then we'll look into it.
After a family member also complained to the user, the video was deleted, but not before it racked up some tens of thousands of views, Breck says. We were unable to reach the person who posted the video for comment, and Instagram didn't comment directly on this situation. But Breck is not alone. The internet is inundated with videos just like it. Usually more flirty encounters.
No, I just want to let you know you're a very beautiful young lady.
Women getting approached by men on the street, asking for their name, number, or even for a date. With some women saying they had no idea that casual conversation was being used for content.
Didn't know he was recording me.
In the United States, people cannot expect to have much of a right to privacy in public places. And in most states, you can legally record your conversation with someone without their permission.
Unfortunately, the sorts of protections that exist right now are not really robust in allowing people to have videos taken down.
Meta, in a blog post, seems to recognize a certain amount of transparency is welcome, noting that every pair of its glasses has a small LED light that blinks when the user takes a video or snaps a picture.
Meta Ray-Ban display.
But those lights can be easily obscured, even removed. NBC News found listings across at least 30 states offering services to do just that. But in a recent update, Meta announced a new privacy feature that shuts some generations of the glasses off if the device detects that the LED light is being tampered with. Across social media, some are suggesting women play copyrighted music to avoid being on camera.
We all know that Disney goes after people that don't license their music, right?
A sly tactic that could prevent some content from being uploaded on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Instagram, though, reportedly cracking down on some of the videos shot by Meta glasses. Its CEO saying the pickup artist prankster-style videos would be banned from the app.
We don't want people to be surreptitiously taking videos of other people and harassing them and then posting them on our platform.
Meta told us in a statement, quote, "We've built privacy in the camera for the glasses from the ground up. A capture LED that will blink bright white when you take a photo or video." Adding, "When people report content, it gets reviewed quickly and taken down if they find it violates bullying and harassment policies." Still, there's been a new push to ban the smart glasses in certain settings, with New York banning them in state courts and Philadelphia courts making a similar move. It all came after a judge in Los Angeles scolded Mark Zuckerberg's team for wearing Meta glasses during a high-profile trial. And some private businesses also taking action, like Comic-Con in the UK, saying recently many attendees are, quote, "not comfortable with the knowledge that other convention goers might be filming them without consent." But sales numbers tell a different story. Ray-Ban's owner said purchases of its AI glasses more than tripled in the last year to over 7 million pairs. The company did not respond to our request for comment. In the last year alone, Meta recruited A-list celebrities for major ad campaigns.
Hey, Meta, call my lawyer.
And new collaborations.
Hey, Meta, take a picture.
Advanced technology that once seemed a lifetime away.
Morning, Mr. Hunt.
But comes with complications that we're dealing with now. Yasmin Vasugian, NBC News.
All right, Yasmin, thanks. The WNBA is bigger than ever, with attention coming both on and off the court. Last night, the Indiana Fever's Caitlin Clark powered the team to a blowout win against the New York Liberty. But before the game, the team's head coach, Stephanie White, passionately called out critics who she said are taking attention away from the game. White had come under fire for what people saw as her underwhelming defense of Indiana's Sophie Cunningham after she took a flagrant foul on Saturday. This was her response.
The hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win. I stand by them. I will always stand by them. Everybody else can go to hell.
This is the league's 30th season, and after 30 years, topics like race, gender, and identity remain part of the conversation. Cunningham's stance on transgender participation in the sport has sparked rallies, protests and debate. While the WNBA has not commented, the league reportedly plans to discuss the topic soon with a task force of team presidents and general managers. Coming up, a Utah couple says they were charged an added fee after opting out of a tip at Shake Shack. How it's reigniting the conversation around tipping culture. And we're tracking a growing trend that's changing the way bars do business. The surge of Gen Xers embracing nightlife. We'll get you current after this. Now to a viral video involving a popular burger chain. It has the tipping debate back up for discussion. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has that story.
B.D. Powell and his wife were waiting for their flight out of Salt Lake City on Friday when his wife noticed a surprising charge while trying to order food at an airport Shake Shack kiosk.
My wife says that if you don't tip at Shake Shack, they make it more expensive per item, so we're about to find out.
I really didn't believe my wife at first.
The couple retested their theory to see if it would happen again.
See, $5.99.
Watch as they ring in 3 milkshakes.
We got cookies and cream.
They ring up for $5.99 each. One has a 49-cent surcharge for adding whipped cream. But when they go to check out and select no tip, the screen reads, there has been a pricing update on one or more of your cart items. The price on the screen then switches.
Everything just went up 50 cents.
I felt like it was being charged for something I shouldn't have been charged for.
In a statement, a Shake Shack spokesperson tells NBC News it is not policy nor that of our licensees to increase the price of menu items when no tip is added. They go on to say this occurred at a Shake Shack that is owned and operated by our licensee at an airport, and that error was created by kiosk technology unrelated to tipping, adding the issue has been resolved. Powell says he didn't try the tipping option to see if that would change the price. The topic at a tipping point for many Americans.
It's gotten out of hand.
I feel like salary should get higher.
According to a Pop Menu survey of 1,000 people, 78% say tipping has become ridiculous. 44% tipping less this year than last year. Who's right or wrong here? Should we be paying or should these businesses stop asking us to?
That is a great question. I think it's probably in the middle. Like if you say, should I pay 20% for my delivery? Well, if I ordered a huge delivery, it's not that different for that person than, if it's a small amount. And so I don't think anyone's wrong. I think this is a good conversation to be having.
Dana Griffin, NBC News.
Interesting. All right. Long gone are the bars where everybody knows your name. That is, unless you're old enough to get that reference. Call it nostalgia for the 80s or a comeback for the retro aesthetic. But the bar scene is looking a little different these days. A new, albeit slightly older crowd appears to be bellying back up. Joining us now, Morning News Now anchor Joe Fryer. I keep hearing about Gen X. What's this trend?
Norm. I feel like I have to scream first of all, right? Cheers. We know Gen Z maybe isn't going out as much, but even when they actually do go out, there's plenty of evidence that when they get to bars, they're drinking less. But Gen X, we're still drinking. We're drinking plenty. And that has some bars making some adjustments.
Like a good cocktail, the bar scene has been shaken, as the days of a crowded club of 20-somethings seem to be drying up. Now it's Gen Xers who are going all in on nights out.
We finally lived long enough to become the target demographic for nightlife.
With bars seeing a business boom among adults from their late 40s to early 60s.
Gen X is really kind of the bread and butter of the industry right now.
It comes as Americans are sobering up. A recent Gallup poll found only 54% of adults say they're consuming alcohol. That's the lowest number in nearly 90 years. But while more than half of adults under the age of 35 say drinking, even in moderation, is bad for your health, only 48% of people 55 and older said the same. The trend has some owners tapping into a more mature crowd, throwing theme nights that revel in 80s nostalgia to keep the drinks flowing. Just outside Detroit, the Magic Bag even hosts dance parties with the Early Birds Club.
Who are these Early Birds?
So an Early Birds event is more of a Gen X event. We started about 6 o'clock. We ended about 10 o'clock. And it's for people that got stuff to do the next day.
As for Gen Z, a recent poll found they're staying home more often on weekends, mostly hoping to save money.
Of course no one's drinking. You have to take out a loan, a small business loan, for a night out.
Still, bars and restaurants have found some success in catering to younger patrons, introducing mocktail menus and hosting reality TV watch parties. Still, owners say it's the older crowd that's most reliably buying drinks, as they make sure a night out is never wasted.
They just want to have a good time is the best way that I can put it.
And then get a full night's sleep.
And then get a full night's sleep. Yes, exactly.
So what's going on here? I mean, is Gen Z or the younger generations just drinking less, and so they're like, oh, we gotta go where the money is?
Yeah, there's plenty of evidence that Gen Z is drinking less. There is also actually a study that came out earlier this year that did say that Gen Z is drinking just as much as other generations, but maybe they're not doing it at bars. But that's the big difference for the bars. I mean, like that bar we were talking about with there, the Magic Bag. They say if they have like a Gen X friendly event, for example, like a Talking Heads night, okay. Duran, maybe a little Tool, something like that, that the alcohol sales are literally 25% higher than if you have an event that's geared more toward the Gen Z crowd. So they definitely see when it comes to going out, the Gen Z kids just aren't going to the bar and drinking. The Wall Street Journal also covered this story, and I found it great because there was a great quote from a guy, Gen X, who says, well, the great thing is if you're at a bar and there's a bunch of Gen Zers there, you can get right to the bar. There's no line at all. You don't have to wait for the drink. You get up, you get your drink, and you go back to what you're doing. So, there's some pros.
It's a generational warfare bar and grill edition here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, nice to see you, Joe Fryer. Thanks, Joe, for that. After the break, Iowans are pushing back against a potential threat to their quiet way of life. We'll tell you about their fight against AI data centers as part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And a 3-year-old boy who was saved by police got to thank his heroes in person. We have more current right after this. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to the people making a difference in their communities. Today, we're stopping in my home state of Iowa, where rural communities are pushing back against data centers as demand for powering artificial intelligence explodes. Kaylee Doms from our Sioux City affiliate, KTIV, takes us inside the fight.
I would say that it's hard to find a better place to live than a small town community in Iowa.
In Salix, Iowa, quiet is just part of the way of life. For Janet Yannick and her family, that quiet is not accidental.
This is the lifestyle that we chose for ourselves and our family. We raised our children here.
But now, residents worry that lifestyle will change with data center projects being proposed near homes and on farmland.
This data center will be directly across the street in my front yard.
900 acres of farmland was annexed into city limits, and Mid-American Energy confirmed
this is a good location for a data center. So I would say it's likely to be a data center.
Salix residents feeling blindsided.
It was difficult to swallow that the people that we've known for years would just betray us.
I can tell you without a doubt that if Salix had a data center and we were looking at homes, we would not have moved here.
And alone.
In the larger communities, you can rely on representatives, experts, lawyers. In the small towns, we have ourselves, and that's it. None of us are experts.
The concerns are similar in rural communities across the entire state. Power, noise, water use, and most of all, whether small towns have enough say before major developments move in.
You are all our first and last line of defense.
For residents worried about being left out of the conversation, the approach taken by more than a dozen counties offer one possible solution: slow down, gather input, and write the rules first.
We pass a moratorium.
The people of Linn County do deserve transparency.
Not make a motion to support this.
We've decided we really need to be proactive and get ahead of this issue.
We need to set a good ordinance.
It gives an opportunity for both sides to come together and really plead their case.
I just want to make sure that we're
protecting the good things that we have here in Sioux County.
The list is expected to grow. As technology comes closer to farm country, communities all across the Hawkeye State are asking for the same thing: a voice before the future is built in their backyard. In Salix, Iowa, Kaylee Doms, NBC News Now.
Kaylee from our affiliate in Sioux City, thank you so much for that story. On the bright side, a touching reunion between a 3-year-old boy and Southern California police officers who rushed to his rescue. The little boy was choking and he had stopped breathing until these heroes stepped in to save his life. Camilla Rambaldi from NBC Los Angeles has that story.
20, can you start towards the child choking?
Dashcam video released by the Rialto Police Department capturing the moments leading up to the rescue of a 3-year-old boy in Rialto.
911, do you need police or paramedics?
It all happened on August 5th, just after noon. Officers were responding to a 911 call of a little boy who was having trouble breathing due to an airway obstruction.
I just remember he was just, to me, he was dead, honestly. You know, it was awful.
I saw a little kid. He was just limp. His hands were dangling. There was other people there. I took over right away, started getting him back blows. His eyes were rolled back. He looked blue. He wasn't breathing at all.
Officer Joshua Colorado was the first one there and quickly started taking action.
Time was of the essence. I think if it would have been a little minutes, seconds later, I don't know what would have happened. He probably wouldn't be here with us.
He was kind of spitting something, you know, like something, and I noticed right away that he wasn't breathing, and I pulled over, and that's when I unbuckled him and dialed 911.
Colorado says he grabbed a suction device to help clear the boy's airways.
Once I saw him just take that breath, I felt all the weight lift from my shoulders.
It's a really special day. I'm really happy, a lot of emotion, seeing the juvenile when I first saw him to now when he's back happy, joyful, running around. It's super exciting, and this is why we do the job.
A terrifying moment and a rescue now reuniting the family of a little boy and the officers who saved his life.
You know, I was honestly waiting for this moment to, you know, chat with them, you know, face to face, and really, you know, give them a hug and thank them for what they did for my son that day.
And a mother,
he's my everything,
grateful to have her son back in her arms.
It was really difficult, you know, but I mean, I thank God that I'm here talking to you and that I'm holding my son today. I really thank the officers again and especially God, you know, but I'm just happy he's okay.
3.
Camilla Rambaldi, thank you. We're grateful you joined us today. NBC News Daily is next.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.